I don't know how we're going to get through this episode. I am like an emotional mess. Oh man, I don't know how we're going to get through today's episode. Every time I'm about to start talking, I am like on the verge of crying. I have so much emotion in my body, and I don't know what to do with it. I think the hardest part about being in it is that most of the time when you're really in this space of, I mean, what I call like being in between and the in between, is that there's like not any answers. Like, I don't know why I feel the way I feel. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know why I feel the way that I feel. And that feeling, that not knowing, is so dysregulating. Like, I'm sad, but like, what am I sad about? So today's episode is, funny enough, supposed to be me recording about when your partner is depressed or when your partner is experiencing depression. And it is not lost on me the hilarity that I'm personally going through that right now. um, I've been experiencing a little bit of a depressive episode for the past couple of weeks, and I I've been here before. I know what this feels like. I know what it feels like. I've been here before. And there is some semblance of peace, acceptance, curiosity that I have this time around, because I know every time I've gone through these bouts of depression, darkness, sadness, confusion, feeling lost, feeling stuck, feeling completely submerged under the waters of I don't know why this is. Um, because I've experienced this multiple times in my life, and I've seen what comes after. There is, like I said, some semblance of like peace around being in it right now. I know that this feeling passes. I know on the other side of depression is typically some levels of expansion, some huge identity shift or belief shift. Like, there's something that literally is purged in this in between, in this depressive episode, in the darkness, in the void, whatever you want to call it. It's all of the things. Something is always illuminated. And I think when we're in it, it can be frustrating. I'll speak for myself, to not have the answer, to not know what is the thing that I'm shedding, what is the thing that's going to be illuminated, what is the thing that is going to shift the way that I experience my life, the way that I experience myself, the way I experience my relationship. And I know I shared this on my Instagram this week. Um, and it was really illuminating, but I think I'm still in the maybe processing of it, because obviously I have a lot of emotions, like I'm crying on this episode. It takes as long as it takes to move through whatever it is that we're shifting. But I finally sat with my journal. Well, I won't say finally. Like, in this last few weeks, have been journaling. I've been meditating. I've been doing a lot of things. But I've also been dissociating a lot. I've also been busying myself with work. I've also been helping others and avoiding actually tending to myself. So, like, I've been doing a little bit of both. And in the journaling that I had done earlier in this, in between, Frank's gonna he's gonna knock it over. Sorry. He's gonna knock it over probably. His foot's like basically touching the stand. Every time I've done the shadow work or had done the shadow work, it was like not it, if that makes sense. Like, I felt like there was more. Like, I wasn't quite getting to the thing. So I don't think that those efforts were meaningless. I think everything helps everything. But it was this week where I finally took to my journal, and what was interesting was that the first thing I wrote down was what's wrong with me. And that tends to be my go-to when I'm experiencing these darker depressive moments. What's wrong with me? Like, something must be wrong with me, because there's no reason why I should feel this way, are like some of the thoughts that I have. I've got an amazing dog. I've got a great partner. I've got a beautiful home. I have amazing friends. Like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. So what's wrong with me? Right? And so I crossed out what's wrong with me, because I know that is a disempowering question. And with disempowering questions, you're going to get disempowering answers. So that's one way to do it. And I've done it that way many of times. But if I don't want to feel disempowered, right? If I desire to feel empowered, if I desire to feel clarity, if I desire to feel growth, then asking a disempowering question isn't probably going to align with that. So I immediately crossed it out and I wrote, what is this experience here to show me? I'm gonna grab my journal, because I'm gonna read to you what came through. BRB. Okay, I really need to get a stand for this mic so I can have another hand available. Frank's dog hair is everywhere. Okay. So I wrote, what is this experience here to show me? And this is something that I always go back to when I'm struggling emotionally or with any sort of conflict. I will go to my journal, and whatever question I want the answer to, I will write it down in my journal and I will respond. There is something about getting the thoughts or the questions out of your head and onto a piece of paper that, I mean, for me, just changes everything. Like, it is so freaking helpful, which you'll kind of see in this dialogue that I go back and forth and share with you guys. The way that I see it is like, I feel like I'm having a conversation with spirit. And what I mean by that is, like, I'm having a conversation with maybe a part of me that just is all-knowing, that isn't wearing layers of identities or beliefs that society or my family or my relationship have put on me. Like, it's just this very sovereign, clear, all-encompassing of love part of me that doesn't wear all these layers of costumes, if that makes sense. So I wrote, what is this experience here to show me? And from a stream of consciousness, I just wrote, I didn't know what I was going to write, right? Like, I immediately just feel like my ego mind gets out of the way, and I just always write the first part of the question and just then see what comes through. So I wrote, this experience is here to show you how to be more present to spaciousness and showing you how you currently navigate and feel in spaciousness. What do you notice? And then I wrote like it was a response, right? Like it asked me a question. What do you notice now that there's more spaciousness in your life? Which, is something that I have been working towards cultivating more time, more space to be present to my life. And so I wrote, it feels uncomfortable. I feel purposeless. It feels like I'm not doing anything and it feels unproductive. I notice that I start to dissociate more and I feel a cloud of darkness constantly looming. Before I continue on with this, it is pretty fucking poetic that Justin also has gone out of town this week on a work trip. So today is the first day that I'm actually by myself. And this is probably also why emotions are coming up, is because like I have no one. Well, I have Frank, but I'm quite literally alone. And I notice how uncomfortable I am being with myself. Like I'm gravitating towards my phone. I was trying to meet up with people. I was like trying to fill the spaciousness with anything, with work, with friends, with people. Like this morning I was going to I took Frank on a walk and I immediately was going to text my neighbor to see if she wanted to go for a walk with me because I just like want to fill the space with something outside of me. Cue my codependency patterns full blown, right? And I don't have to make that mean anything bad about me. I don't have to berate myself with, oh, look, you're regressing. Like, yes, I am back in old patterns because I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. My nervous system doesn't feel regulated, so I'm going to revert back to old ways that I would regulate my nervous system, which is through comforts of being of service to others, helping others, filling my time with others, having conversations with others, shopping. Another one, scrolled all night last night after dropping Justin off at the airport. Shopping, online shopping. Like all my old patterns. Oh, yeah. And you know what else I did? I ate fucking cookies for dinner. Like, it's so funny. So, quite literally, all my vices: online shopping, eating cookies, trying to fill my time with helping others, right? And these are identities and patterns that I am being invited to, I don't even want to say like release, but just notice how I feel when I'm in those patterns. And is it giving me what I desire to feel? The answer is no. After I eat cookies for dinner, do I feel great? No. After I realized I spent 5 hours scrolling and adding clothes to a basket that I never buy, like, do I feel good after spending all those hours doing that? No. Right? It provided me with some semblance of comfort in a time where I needed it, so I can have gratitude for that. And now that I'm outside of the pattern and can have some time to reflect, can I decide a new way to support myself today, right? And so that's what I spent the morning doing. So instead of texting my neighbor, I took Frank on a walk and I listened to a podcast by myself. Instead of going and meeting up with a friend this afternoon like I was trying to do, I canceled and said, I really need to be with myself today. And I plan to do that. I plan to sit with myself. I plan to journal. I plan to write. I plan to do some other things that bring me comfort. I plan to make myself a healthy meal, not cookies, you know? So I had responded with, it feels uncomfortable, right? Feels uncomfortable. And then continuing the writing, writing as though spirit, if you will, responds, yes, this is how you currently feel with a life that is slow and spacious, which is what you asked for. Was it not? Spirit's been real spicy lately, but it is true. Back in March, and I think even before then, but I remember specifically in March when I went to Alt Summit, I was a speaker at this women's conference in Palm Springs, and I got to stay in a house with an amazing group of women. And there was a hot tub, and there was a night, I think it was the last night, we kind of all sat in the hot tub together reflecting, and we did something that my friend Marley Williams, if you guys don't follow her, she's amazing. She's an amazing motivational speaker, and she does this thing at her retreats called the hot tub time machine, where you pick a time frame like 5 years in the future, 10 years in the future. You're speaking from that place. What are you doing? Who are you? Like, tell us about your life in the present tense as though it already is. And so, all the women are going around sharing their, in 5 years, but from present tense. It's like, I, live here and I do this and this is what I, blah, 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 whatever it was for them. And for me, what was interesting was that the only thing I really saw for myself was me sitting under a tree in my yard, in my backyard, under my mimosa tree. And it was like, I was just laying there and my baby was laying next to me and I had like puke in my hair. And I just remember being like so happy. Like I felt ecstatic bliss, like laying in the grass with puke in my hair and my baby just like googly eyed looking at me. And that's what I shared with them. I was like, I have a slow and spacious life. And this is all I want. This is all I want. I don't want anything else like that. Just laying on the grass underneath the tree with baby puke in my hair and my child looking up at me, right? So I asked for that. I envision that. I want that. It's like my deepest desire. I'm going to cry again. But the truth is, even when I currently will go and lay under the mimosa tree in my backyard, I feel so uncomfortable. I feel like I wrote, like purposeless, like I'm not doing anything. Every like bit of my body just like it's a visceral experience of discomfort. Like my whole body just buzzing with like, get up and go do something, look at your phone, respond to the messages, like go and do something. And the truth is, I don't want to feel that when I'm a mother. I don't want to feel like I need to get out of this present moment in order to feel purposeful. Like I need to go do something. I need to go be in service to someone or something outside of me, outside of this relationship, me with my child. I don't want to feel that way. So what I ended up writing was it is what I want. It's what I've asked for, and I'm open and willing for it to feel a different way. I'm open to my slow and spacious life to feel joyful, abundant, peaceful, and fun. I am open to that. And I realize that that is going to require me to release certain beliefs and stories that I tell myself around being slow and spacious and like quote unquote not doing anything, right? So what I wrote down was, what stories or beliefs do you need to tend to so that you can start anchoring into that? And then I went into full shadow work mode. So here's the shadow work prompt that I played with for myself. I wrote, if I'm not doing anything, then the shadow work piece would be like, what am I afraid will happen? What am I afraid that might mean about me? So I wrote, If I'm not doing anything, then everything I built will fall apart and I will lose it all. And then I'll be dependent on my partner and I'll lose my sense of self and I'll feel worthless. And if I feel worthless, I will lose my will to live and I'll lose myself completely. And I think why I'm so emotional about this is because I've spent the last few years really listening to hundreds of women's stories. And like, this is the mother wound. Like, so many mothers have devoted themselves, all of themselves, to being mother, that they've completely lost their sense of self. And I think that that is a part of the journey of mother, right? Which I mean, I don't know from personal experience yet. And I think that there is an initiation that I get to go through in the releasing of that identity of who I've been in order to step into mother. That initiation from maiden to mother is, you know, it's just so powerful and it's so potent and so sacred. And I think we are stepping more into this reverence for that process and a reverence for mothers like it once was. This community coming together to hold space for mothers. But for generations, that was lost. Mothers were isolated. They were put into their homes that are away from family, right? The way that we've all been living in society for the past, I don't know, 100 years. Maybe that's dramatic, but we've gotten into these small, tiny spaces where we don't have support, and that's where we're losing ourselves. That's why healing the mother wound is really rooted in community. We get to have support, we get to have community, we get to have help. And the if it's not available to you, create it. If it's not something that's already happening in your community where women come together, create it. Like, we need women who are creating these spaces. Or we're just going to keep getting more of the same. This has inspired me to tell you guys like my vision for when I'm mother, and I will save it for another episode. But I really do believe in this new way of being in community that takes the wisdom of living in, village life, but also kind of like melds it together with, you know, the culture now. And yeah, I'll save it for another episode, but uh I feel inspired to share that with you guys because I have a vision. I have a vision that I will tirelessly work at creating for myself in my life. Um but anyways, I digress. Whew. So after exploring that shadow work prompt, I went into the somatic and inner child practice. This is, I mean, you guys hear me talk ad nauseum about this on the podcast episodes where I'm supporting members in the Codependency Alchemy community. Sorry, Frank's little foot is twitching. Let me move this. I walk them through the process, right? Shadow work and then somatic inner child work. So I did that with myself. I asked myself the question, where does this live in my body? And it was my shoulders. It felt like a really heavy backpack, but that backpack was like red and prickly, and it was stinging my shoulders. And so something I've been doing in my practice with myself is like, instead of going straight into how old is that part of me, is I've been making that sensation bigger. I've been growing it, um, intensifying it until it is like bigger than me. And the reason why I feel like I've been called to do this is because there are a lot of fears and fears. Yep. There are a lot of fears that come up when making the sensation bigger. And I believe that those fears that get uncovered are really, really pivotal in healing, because we're bringing awareness to a deeper fear around why we are holding on to a belief, or a story. So when I made it bigger, the sensation bigger, or I intensified that, red prickly feeling on my shoulders, the thoughts that came in were, it's going to kill me. And then I felt like torture, screaming, which I paused. I remember I paused, taking a deep breath to be with that thought, it's going to kill me, just feeling that feeling of torture. And then I made it a little bit bigger. And then it turned into sadness. And then when I made it bigger, it turned scared. Like I had this felt sense of just being scared. Um, and then when I made it bigger, all of a sudden I saw a baby. It was like blackness, and then I saw a baby. So then, um, I just noticed what the baby was like the felt sense. It felt very quiet. I felt curious looking at the baby, and I picked her up and noticed that she was me. So when we make the sensations bigger, what I'm noticing in my work and then the work that I've done with women who I'm leading through that practice is that when they get to that like darkness and I ask how old they are, it's like a very potent remembering. So I asked this baby, what does she want? And of course, like keeping in mind, like this is an infant, right? So it wasn't like she was talking to me, but it was a felt sense. It was like, we'll call it telepathy. Like I felt like I was hearing the responses, but I wasn't necessarily like seeing her talking, if that makes sense. Speaking of talking, when I asked what is it that she wants, it was to be talked to. I asked her what she needed, and I heard presence. How will she feel when she gets that need met? Was worthy and loved. And so then I felt like my spirit baby was talking to me through this experience. Um, so a whole bunch of things came flowing out of me afterwards. Um, and I don't think I've talked about spirit baby on the podcast actually before. So for those of you, so context, a couple of years ago, I felt the presence of a spirit baby through just my meditations, and it feels like the baby that wants to be birthed through me, but there's a lot of things that they need in order for them to come through. And I just feel like it's been this continuous journey of me mothering myself and her, even though, or them, since we won't know what the gender is until we do. But just really taking the wisdom, the guidance, the nudges that spirit baby drops in for me as clarity and as direction. So anyways, maybe I can do a whole podcast episode on that too if you guys are curious about my preconception journey, which has been quite long. But what I wrote down was you'll have to put your phone down. You'll have to leave the house. You'll have to dance and play more. You'll have to trust that everything will be okay, that you won't lose everything. You cannot and you will not. Things will continue to grow no matter what you do. You do not need to constantly be on the other side of things. Yeah, which is like a practice for me for sure. The spaciousness and the slowness is needed to be present with her. Her is spirit baby. It does feel like a her, and that's how I connect with spirit baby, is as a her, or as, yeah. That doesn't necessarily mean that that baby will come through as that gender, but it's just how I connect with her in this time. You will need to feel safe in the slow if you are going to avoid fear and resentment. And this just fucking hit me in my soul. You cannot blame her for the discomfort you feel in the slow, so get comfortable in it now. And that just spoke so loudly to me. Like, by no means do I want to blame my baby for the discomfort I feel in the slowness, but I don't feel comfortable in slow. I don't feel comfortable in not constantly doing things or constantly being on the other side of things. That has really fueled my purpose. And like, where is that a codependent dynamic that I have created in my life is through being of service and devoting myself to service of others more than devoting that service to myself first and foremost, and then letting that ripple out into how others get to meet themselves. And I've continuously bumped up against this in my business over and over again. And, you know, hopefully one day that will subside, but I am really at this crossroads or this checkpoint again where I get to see, where have I created codependent dynamics in the work that I do or my service or in my business, and where can I break that down even more? Because if my identity is tied up in being of service to others, then when that goes away, right? Say when I have a baby, right? In this experience that's being illuminated for me, then where am I going to build resentment towards that new identity because I couldn't release the old one, right? So, like, where can I release more attachment to my service, if you will, and really bring my focus again back on myself and sharing my journey? So I knew that in this podcast episode, I was going to make some sort of declaration, not only to you guys, but to myself, of being less, how do I want to say this? Really bringing my focus and attention back on myself and my journey and sharing that more with you guys, because I think what was happening a little bit was that I wanted to answer all your questions. Not to say that I don't want to answer your questions, but I was getting wrapped up in answering all of the questions that come through and making, you know, quote unquote valuable content to you based off of what you guys needed, and forgetting that I too am on my own journey as well. And there are questions that come up for me that I'm not having the time or space to tend to because I'm wrapped up in giving to others, right? Which is the freaking, it's just codependency. So here it is again, just in my face, smacking me about, where can I bring my attention inward and continue to grow and evolve within myself and show you guys that process. So I don't think I went completely off the rails with the codependent patterns, but I was dabbling in it. I certainly was dabbling in it, and it's continuously showing me that, like, that isn't in integrity, that isn't in alignment. So can I just be curious and redirect myself back towards my journey, my healing process, and sharing that with you guys, and being able to like relate and be in service in that way. So a couple other questions that I went to my journal with, and again, I would recommend this wholeheartedly. Any questions that you have for me or that you want somebody else to answer, write it in your journal and see what answer comes through, because the answer that comes through for you is going to be way more potent and the kick in the ass that you need more than getting it from outside of you. I wrote, okay, how do I do that? How do I get more comfortable in being in the slow and spaciousness now? And what I wrote down was notice how your body feels, meet it, validate it, grow your capacity to do something that you've never done. Laugh, play, sing, dance, lay outside until you begin to enjoy it. And for those of you who know me, like, this has been my fucking work for like years. And I do think that I am getting much better at it, but there is room for growth for sure. I wrote anything else ? And this was really sweet what came through. You're exactly where you're meant to be. It's okay that it has felt uncomfortable. This is a part of the process. Where you are triggered is just because you're growing a capacity. Give yourself grace. It's a part of you that wants to be held, and you just held her. Keep coming back here and holding her every time and talk to her. Be consistent. So that's something I communicate often to, the women in the membership who I lead through those shadow work and inner child journeys. At the end, I remind them, when we meet these parts of ourselves, we want to let them know that they live in our heart space, that if they ever need us, all they need to do is call and ask, and we will be there. And what I mean when I say that is that when the stories or thoughts, right, which are what's wrong with me, I need to be doing something, I feel uncomfortable, I should be productive, I'm being unproductive, those are all the thoughts that this young part of me held. So when those thoughts come in, it's my opportunity to go in and meet with my healer, meet with this part of me, right? So when I wrote down, coming back here, holding her every time those thoughts come in, and talk to her, asking that part of me, what are you afraid of? What is here for me? What do I need to know? What are you here to show me? Empowering questions, right? Instead of, why is this happening to me? Why is this coming up again? I thought I already healed this. What's wrong with me? Like, those are all disempowering questions. So coming back and holding her, reparenting her, sitting with her, being in ceremony. And it doesn't have to look like a whole 30-minute long meditation. It can literally be while you're making food and you're saying like, oh, I should be working right now. It's just like hand on your heart space, envisioning that version of yourself. So for me, I would be envisioning me holding that infant me, baby me. And I would just say, I see you. What's going on? Talk to me. What are you afraid is going to happen if I don't work right now? That is how we heal these core wounds, is going in and being curious and asking ourselves these questions. So I'm just looking at my, I wrote more like on another day. I'm just going to share the beginning because it kind of goes with my declaration I just made a few moments ago. I wrote, fuck. I'm being redirected. Maybe that's not quite the word. Shifting. Next phase of my purpose is soul focus will be on me. And then I wrote, fuck again. Vulnerable, raw, real stories that are solely focused on me. Less teaching them about them, more me sharing me. My process, my void, my journey, my pain, my pleasure, my focus has to come back to me, and I cannot distract myself with others. Whew, I needed to say that. I needed to say that out loud. I needed to make that declaration, because if I've learned anything, they tell you this, right? Growing up, when you're in relationships, they have to want to change. It's true. You can't want change for somebody else more than they want change for themselves. You just can't. And I'm continuously being met with that, creating spaces for people to come to do the inner work. But at the end of the day, like, I can't make anyone do the work. I can't make anyone actually sit down and journal the shadow work questions. I can't actually make someone do the reflections or the inner child work to help them tend to and heal their unresolved trauma. I can't want it more than you. I can't. And I think what was happening was that I was trying. I did want it more. I wanted it this fucking most. I'm like, if you would just sit and answer these questions and do this practice, you would see. But it doesn't matter if I want that for you if you don't want that for you. It doesn't matter if I want that for you and you're not ready for that. So again, I have to bring my focus back on me. And I think this is a great start of just sharing like how I move myself through this process, because that will continue to unlock curiosity within you. And it continues to keep me on my evolution and growth, right? What derails my evolution and growth is when I want something for you more than you want it for you, and I neglect myself in the process, right? It's finding a balance. My service is best served, or I am in my best, how do I say this? What wants to come through? When I am serving at my best, it is when I'm serving myself and allow myself to be seen by you. So that is what I'm going to continue to work on. Boundaries for myself so that you can want it enough for you. And I can continue to walk with you on that journey. I wrote my journey will be an internal one and one that I share publicly for all to see. And that is healing the mother wound, when we allow ourselves to be witnessed and seen in all versions of ourselves, right? We're not perfect. And we risk judgment, right? We risk comparison. We risk being isolated, right? Or cast out. But healing the mother wound is deep belonging within myself and allowing myself to be seen wholly in community. And I've made my community here in this world that we have together, Codependency Alchemy, right? Top 2% podcast with thousands of listeners and over 100 people in the membership taking these conversations to the next level, right? Allowing themselves to be seen and witnessed in their experience. It's a beautiful and potent community that I am just so grateful for. So for those of you who are in Codependency Alchemy, the membership on Substack, thank you. Thank you wholeheartedly for being a part of my world and for letting me be a part of yours, and getting to do this deep generational healing work together. It changes 7 generations before. The work that you are doing does not go unnoticed. I also want to thank all of you who are devoted listeners who have listened to every single episode. For anyone who maybe this is your first episode that you've ever listened to, welcome. You saw a very vulnerable side of me. I don't think I've ever cried on the podcast before. That was a little bit of a roller coaster ride, and thank you. Thank you for witnessing me. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your day today. And I really do want to continue these conversations. Please check out this episode on Substack. You can leave any reflections or personal shares in the comments. In the membership, we meet 3 times a month. We meet on Thursdays. We do a masterclass. We do a meetup where I lead people through this practice through hot seat coaching. And we also do an AMA chat where you get to drop your questions and get support or get feedback. So if you're looking for taking this to the next level, right? If you're looking for support with prompts or reflections on how to do this work for yourself, or even wanting to be walked through this process, then the membership is only $9 a month. It's $90 annually, so you get 2 months for free. And it's the just for me, to me, I'll speak for myself. It is just the perfect space to continue to have accountability in doing this work. And instead of just hoping for things to change in my relationship or hoping things get better, I actively take accountability and knowing that things change when I change. Things get better when I focus on myself, when I work on myself. Everything in my life will continue to be a reflection of the inner work that I do. So I'll leave you with that today. If you want to join the membership, definitely check out the link in the show notes or description box below. It would truly be an honor to have you in the membership. And before I hop off, the mastermind waitlist is also open. So if you're wanting a more intimate community where we have a private chat and we're talking pretty much every day, the waitlist for that is also in the show notes or description box below. There's only 6 spots available for the mastermind. So like I said, it is a much more intimate group, and the work that we do there is profound. You can join the waitlist so you get access to the spots when they come out by going to the link in the show notes. I hope you have a beautiful day. I'm going to go process probably some more, maybe see if there's more tears that want to come through. But I love you all so much, and thank you for seeing me today. I appreciate you, and I love you, and I'll see you next week. Bye.